Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Relationship Pod. I'm your host, Sarah Boutros, and today I am joined by a very special guest, the newest member of the Secure Method team, Aanu Ojo. She is a clinical psychologist and relationship coach who has spent the last 6 years helping people heal relational trauma, break free from insecure attachment patterns, and build healthier relationships. She is trained in the Gottman Method, ACT, and CBT, and has worked across such a variety of cultures and communities. Today, we're going to be talking about all things attachment style and healthy relationships. You'll get to hear about her own personal journey, how she got into therapy, and the kind of strategies she's used to help her clients that you can implement for yourself today. Welcome to the podcast, Aanu.
Thank you for having me.
Super excited to introduce you to the Secure Method community. I have no doubt that you're going to be adding so much value to the lives of the people here, and really looking forward to deep diving and letting everyone get to know you a bit better as well. So, I was wondering, what was it that drove you to take on this path of becoming certified to become a psychiatrist and diving into the world of psychology?
So I think that it was a combination of a lot of things. One is curiosity about the world, about my immediate family. I grew up in a very enmeshed family. All of these terms I would learn much later, where it was very religious, we're very isolated from community, and there was this like hovering sense of tension in my house growing up that I knew was off when I visited other people. It felt like everybody was more relaxed, but when my parents got home, you just sort of brace yourself. When it was visiting day in school, you kind of brace yourself. And I thought it was maybe them being strict or them being disciplined or something. But it was just that sense of, even if you don't know the name for what you're experiencing, you just know that this isn't inherently a happy space. So I started asking questions. I started reading as much as I could with like this introduction to psychology textbook that I saw. And it was just like, okay, you know what, let me go for it and see what I can learn about it. And when you enter the field, you know that the path keeps getting wider and wider. So I did my first degree in psychology, went on to do a master's in clinical psychology, went on to do further training. And it was first in an investigation to myself and my experiences, and then an extension to how I can help people name their experiences as well and be a lot more empowered from it.
Amazing. I love that. And I always find that the people that have gone through their own personal struggles with their relationships are the people who tend to be the most gifted at the work that they do with their clients. How do you feel like your personal experience has been helping you get your clients and get them results on a deeper level?
I think one of the things that I value is like the ability to name a situation. Like there's a difference between love and discipline. There's a difference between discipline and abuse. There's a difference between attention and enmeshment. There's a different, those having the name and like category for those specific things help me validate my feelings that what I was experiencing was not an overreaction, right? And the same thing with people where they come into sessions and they say, I'm probably overreacting. It's probably too much. They probably don't mean it this way. It's probably normal. And then I sit and it's helpful to be a container for that. And gradually we unpack, why do you feel like it's too much? If it's okay to act the way that they did, how come it's leading to this like dysfunctional results that you're experiencing? And let's walk through that together. And down the line, helping them name it helps them like identify it immediately when it shows up again. So they might not agree in the session again, but it sits somewhere, and then in front they're just like, this is not okay. This is what she was talking about, and this is like, and then we now like revisit those goals again, and they approach it in a very like empowered way that, okay, now I agree that this is not okay. What can I do about it? It's such a powerful thing, learning to name your experience and validate like what you are feeling.
Yeah, I even got goosebumps as you were talking about it because I think that a lot of people's idea of their self-worth and love and the sort of treatment they deserve, it's all usually formed in their younger years. where they don't have somebody that is teaching them right from wrong. They just have that internal feeling that they're not okay, but they
Yes.
tend to blame themselves as opposed to
Yes.
actually looking at externally what's happening. And there's so much value in having somebody that can just come and actually validate, like, hey, your nervous system is telling you the truth. Like
Hmm.
things are not okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like
yeah,
that work of trusting your gut, trusting
yeah,
your instincts is so
yeah.
interesting. It's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, and so needed. I know personally for me, I relate to it on a personal level. And I know you do too, obviously, with what you've just said with your personal upbringing. So it's doing good work in the world. And you've also worked not just with people who have been through similar things in terms of their relationship ruptures, but also you've worked from people from all over the world, right? How do you feel like the cultural diversity has shaped the way that you sit with people and the kind of thought process that you use while you're working with people as well?
I think that one, it has taught me a lot about curiosity, being curious about their experience and not assuming. As a therapist, generally, you shouldn't assume anything, but when you go into like diverse cultural experiences, it's even more emphasized. What means something in one culture, in one country, might mean something entirely different. And it keeps me on my toes and learning the symbolism of that and how those symbols, those situations impact the client individually. And beyond the difference, that also taught me a lot about commonalities where we agree, or not just agree, where like things are aligned and how we are just as alike as we are different. And it has made me a lot more like culturally intelligent, culturally curious, where I'm not just learning about the theories of things. I'm also like blowing it up and zooming out to see how does ethnicity intersect with your sexuality? How does your religion intersect with your ethnicity? How a Nigerian Christian will practice their religion and how that will impact their mental health will be significantly different from how a Christian in the Middle East would practice it and how it will affect their mental health. So it has just made me very curious and a constant learner, and it's one of the
Mm.
most exciting parts of my work.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important, such an important aspect of the work too, because I know a lot of therapists don't have the wider perspective. And as somebody who's Middle Eastern myself, I know that I've worked with some therapists that have had a more like individualistic approach to healing. And it does, some of the recommendations that they have given me don't personally work in the dynamic that I have culturally. So I really have a lot of respect for the amount of like deep diving that you have done and the amount of cultures and that you've dedicated to learning about throughout your work. I think it's really good.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, no problem. I know that you also specialize as a relationship coach. So your degree in psychology, clinical psychiatrist, also a relationship coach.
Yeah.
You have worked with people on helping them heal their attachment style. What is one truth about attachment that you feel most people are misunderstanding with the work that you've done?
One truth that people are misunderstanding. I think it's so hard to come up with like one fundamental
Yeah,
one. When I think about it, so many
one of
things
many.
come to mind. One of many. I think that relationships can be as healing as they are damaging. I think when people get out of like dysfunctional situations, the impulse might be to isolate and find themselves and heal. And, it's like, I'll get to this point before I'm not worthy enough to get in there. But we are communal beings just as we are, relational beings. And just as one relationship can be damaging and you've experienced the version of that, another relationship, not just like romantic, but platonic, familiar, can also be as healing. And there's a lot that you learn about yourself in those situations too. So that impulse to isolate and separate, I think I'd like people to interact with that a bit more before they dive into that as the one be all and end all of all relationship, I guess, endings and ruptures.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand, which is that you don't heal relationship ruptures outside of relationships.
Yes.
Yeah, you heal them in safe relationships with safe
Yes.
people,
Hmm.
friendships, new partners, new experiences. And I agree, I think it's something that a lot of people fail to recognize. They think that they need to go and do all the healing work on their own before they enter. But
Hmm.
yeah, this is something I also relate to in my own personal experience where
Yeah.
I'm
Like
secure.
exactly. Like people go and they do the work, which is fantastic. You know, you read the books, you do the work, whatever that work means to you. And then they get into relationships and they see that they're still challenged, they're still activated, and they're still experiencing these big reactions that they thought they had outgrown. And it's
Yeah,
like that is part of the healing work. It is showing you the wound, it is showing you where the work continues and you now continue it there in the relationship, not stepping away again. So it's just an interesting situation to witness.
yeah, for sure. And do you feel that there is any merit in doing healing work outside of a relationship?
I would say yes. Sometimes it helps with interrupting patterns where if you're used to codependent situations, for instance, and you're used to outsourcing certain things, sometimes it might be helpful to turn inwards and ask, like, what are the muscles that I need to build? What are the things that I have been using relationships to avoid? And is this
Mm,
a good time to actually face them? How can I confront my idea of lovability and self worth outside the boundaries and validations of romantic relationships? Sometimes, like, we interrupt our journeys by, either being in service to other people, fawning over other people, and saying that as long as I'm of use to you, then I'm lovable because you are buying into my use. But if you pause and you're not of use to anybody, you're not fawning, you're
mm,
not doing any of those like patterns that you learned either growing up or in surviving, and you're just saying, I am by myself. How lovable can you get? Can you believe that you are when nobody is participating in that use? So I would say that yes, there's a lot of benefit to doing that work by yourself. It can be very
yeah.
helpful too.
Yeah. I guess the important thing is not to say it's one or the other, it's actually both. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. So you do this work with your clients. What would you say, like, two of your proudest moments in your coaching journey have been so far in the work that you've done with your clients in terms of how you've helped them overcome specific things?
One that comes to mind is helping a woman leave a dysfunctional relationship. It
Mm.
was emotionally abusive, financially abusive, and she noticed herself again buying into that story of as long as I'm a giver, as long as I'm a provider and I'm of use, then I'm lovable. And her story was, I can abandon myself and just prioritize other people. And she used that to define herself for the longest time. And throughout the therapy sessions, she was just like, you know what, I'm okay as long as my husband is fine. But we started doing the work and we started interacting with it a lot more. Where is that coming from? And she had experienced complex PTSD, both big T and small t abuse with her primary caregivers. And she had experienced a lot of abandonment with her family growing up. So there was this big need to find her own family and create people that would actively choose her. But the route that she took was quite different.
Mm.
So in working together, it was a journey of like one healing those initial wounds and also asking like what does a fulfilling loving life look like outside this like narrative that you have told about yourself. And it was very gradual, but in asking and answering those questions, she made like big decisions for herself where she moved out, set up this apartment, started asking herself, like, what are the things I enjoy doing? I want to go to cinema, I want to go to a gallery, I want to go out by myself for the first time in decades. And it's been so incredible. It was so incredible, kind of like watching her from afar do that. The next one will be along working with like a queer client. It was a client that had experienced internalized homophobia due to externalized homophobia, and it also affected their relational patterns. Something that you would probably experience with like lesbian sapphic clients is a big sense of enmeshment, because if you've lived in a homophobic community, you're first ostracized by your family, you're ostracized by the system, and then you're again seeking family in your partner. So one person now takes on multiple symbols. They're your partner, they're your parents, they're your family, they're your friends, they're everything. And when that relationship ended, it was world shattering. And it was like, how do I define myself out of this, outside this person? And it was a work of healing, trying to recover from that, learning healthy coping patterns. And it was so interesting watching her build found family and friendships rather than seek another romantic relationship again. It was just like, how can I diversify my sources of love and affection beyond a romantic partner? And that was like a journey that I was very honored to be a part of.
Wow, yeah, that sounds absolutely stunning. And would you have any experience in working with couples? I know that you're also a Gottman certified therapist. Have you had any experience with helping couples overcome really dire conflict issues in their relationship?
Yes, I have. I've worked with a number of couples actually, and it is one of my favorite parts of being a relationship coach, because when people grow up, they learn different communication styles that might be dysfunctional, either by watching their parents mirror it, or maybe surviving by being quiet, or surviving by, overshadowing the next person. And it's so interesting, like having them like set therapy goals for each other, set therapy goals for the relationship, and then build certain skills. So at the beginning of the session, they're like, but you did this, but you did that. And then in the fifth, sixth, seventh session, or sometimes even as early as like the fourth session, it's like, okay, you probably didn't mean this, but I was noticing, I felt, using their I
Mhm.
statement, stating their positive needs. And the other person is like, okay, so when I said this, this is how you felt. And it's just like, are you seeing like the work that is happening here? And it's so exciting, like watching them shift from like a dysfunctional communication pattern to a more functional, collaborative one.
Yeah. So it's one of the most important aspects of a healthy relationship, the ability to actually resolve conflict. I know that the Gottman research said they were able to predict divorce by like 90% accuracy within 15 minutes of a
Yeah.
conversation just
Yeah.
by the way that they were speaking to each other. So I think it's absolutely phenomenal work, and I hear you. It's so cool to see them building those skills.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was listening to this and they were struggling with some of the problems that we talked about here, what kind of takeaway would you want them to walk away with for themselves?
I would say don't discount your discomfort, or, you know, notice it first of all. As an ACT like therapist, like acceptance commitment therapy, we talk about noticing and naming, and a metaphor that I use is like you walk on the street and it's like you've walked there 5 times, and one day you see this building spring up, and it's like what happened, and it's like it has been there and it has been building for a while, but you're just like noticing it there, and it's like this tall building. And sometimes that's how we are with how uncomfortable we feel with things. It's there and it's brewing in our body, but we discount it, we disconnect from it, we don't engage in it, and one day it now becomes this huge thing that is present. So the first thing I would say is like notice what you're feeling, like practice the art of noticing what is showing up mentally, emotionally, physically. There is data that uncomfortable emotions give you that we sometimes run away from because they are uncomfortable. And whether it's about ourselves, about our relationships, it's data. It doesn't have to immediately define everything, but what is that irritation telling you about this situation? What is anger telling you about this situation? I've learned that irritation might be telling you about boundaries that you need to set that might be violated, or anger might be telling you about a sense of injustice that is happening. But we will translate that and be like, oh, I shouldn't be more so irritated, or it's bad to be angry. And we shut that down and show up in relationships and disregard our emotions. So I'll say step one is noticing it, like, and also notice how certain behaviors have hindered you in the present, but beyond that, how have they saved you in the past? But because the reason why they are there and they've been there for so long is that they've had some kind of use before now. So how has it saved you in the past, and how can you compassionately acknowledge how it might be hindering you now? Because what has helped you survive in the past might not help you thrive right now. So I would
Mhm.
say, like, notice that and then like document that. Just have a journal. You don't have to immediately act on it, but sometimes having that data front and center allows you to pay attention to patterns. And then when you're ready to change, it's not an overwhelming process bringing all of this up at once. You're there and you're aware of it.
Mhm. Yeah, so there's self-awareness as a really important piece to healing.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you said about understanding that these things are there for a reason.
yeah,
Because I know that one of the symptoms of dealing with trauma in general is that you just feel that you're fundamentally broken and you see everything that you're experiencing as something that's holding you back, when the reality is that you wouldn't have survived what you went through if you didn't have that there.
exactly.
And it really helps to bring a lot of compassion. So I like that you named that out. Cool. And now that you are stepping into the Secure Method team, what excites you most about this chapter?
I'm so excited about collaborating with the team. I think it's such a cool thing to work with people from such diverse backgrounds, unique experiences, kind of trainings, and I've learned a lot in my short time here. And I think that like collaboration is at the top of my list. Beyond that, it's also an opportunity to learn from clients as well and do good work in contributing to healthy relationships going forward. At the
Mhm.
end of the day, like that is why I got into the field, and it's having this as my full-time job combines a sense of meaning with a career path, and very few people get to do that. So I'm very excited to, be a part of the team, contribute to workshops, work with my colleagues, and just like collaborate with people.
Yeah.
That is what I'm most excited about here.
Well, we are very excited to have you and really excited to see the work that you're going to be doing here with the clients. So appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective and your story with us today. For those of you who are listening into this and thinking, I need Anu as my therapist, feel free to leave a comment below with coaching and we will reach out to you about how you can get started.